Some troubling news today. A historic mass layoff at Bell Media's parent company saw the Canadian broadcast giant in the hot seat online today. Not only will nearly 5,000 jobs be cut, including journalists, but Bell also plans to sell off 45 radio stations and end most of its noon and weekend newscasts across the country. Emily Taylor joins us in studio with all the details. Emily.
Hi, Nicole. Now, this is the largest set of cuts that we've seen from Bell Media in the last 30 years and comes less than a year after they cut 1,300 jobs last June. Now, the company is pointing the finger towards dwindling advertising dollars and a lack of government support. Bell Canada has left workers and viewers reeling after announcing their latest round of job and show cuts today. In a company-wide letter, Bell's CEO Mirko Bibic says they're slashing 4,800 jobs across all divisions. That's roughly 9% of their workforce. But what's more concerning for journalism experts is that the company is also cutting down on their news programming in both television and radio.
A country that already has so few sources of reliable journalist-produced news is now going to have a significantly smaller number of places to find news.
Here's what's changing. Weekday noon broadcasts will end at all CTV stations except in Toronto. 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. weekend newscasts will end for all stations except for Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. CTV's evening programming, The Debate, This Hour, and Top 3 Tonight are all ending. BNN Bloomberg's weekday programming will also change and be streamlined. And 45 of Bell's 103 regional radio stations will be sold to 7 different companies. BC Premier David Eby took aim at the company today, calling it corporate greed.
On behalf of all of the families of the journalists, the media outlets, on behalf of all British Columbians that have watched their local news stations slowly turned to garbage by these companies who now say, unsurprisingly, that there's not a lot of support for them, I just want to say shame on you.
There is a point where you're cutting and you're actually stopping or even diminishing or damaging the quality of the service you're providing. And I think we have reached the point now where news businesses on the whole in this country, not all, but most, have gone below that threshold.
Bell executives point to a lack of government support for the decision to cut jobs, saying media regulating bills like C-18 and C-11 won't provide immediate help for their revenue shortfalls. Bill C-18 is meant to force tech giants to compensate Canadian news outlets for their content. Meta has refused to allow any Canadian news online, while Google struck an $100 million a year deal with the government, $30 million of which is earmarked for broadcast media. Parent company BCE says their news operations lose around $40 million a year, and ad revenues are down $140 million compared to the previous year. In a letter to workers, Bell's CEO says these decisions are incredibly tough, but also notes they'll save the company around $250 million a year.
A private enterprise's first job is to return value to their shareholders, right? The problem is that a news provider's first job is to perform a public service.
According to a list from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, Bibic was named the 38th highest paid Canadian CEO, bringing in $13.5 million in 2022.